information to help you run your business better and improve your marketing campaigns. My name is Hank Hoffmeyer, and thank you for joining me on Hank's Marketing and Business Tips. Welcome to episode 303 of the HMBT Podcast. Today I have Joshua Harrell with me. He is with WorldVia Travel Network. He is a chief revenue officer, and he knows a lot about marketing, knows a lot about traveling, and we're going to talk about that, how it relates to your business or your role in what you do. Joshua, it's a pleasure to have you here today with your shimmery wall.
Thank you so much for having me, Hank. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great. I think, once I got over the 300 mark with my podcast, I said, wow, I'm still doing this because I think people are listening and metrics show that. And I've had a lot of different people on. I don't think I've had anybody in the travel industry on. I may be wrong, but I don't have anybody that I know of or remember right off the top of my head. And I do a lot of travel. I think if I remember correctly, myself, I've been to 34 countries and 43 states now, and my kids have been to all the U.S. states except for Hawaii. We just need to get Hawaii in there. And I think we don't really consume a lot of marketing when it comes to travel. We seek outward and do our own travel planning. My wife's really good at that. I've always told her she should get into travel and doing it for people, but then she said I'd be doing what I like and turning it into a job, which I totally understand. But to get things started today, let's talk about travel. What is the state of, number one, like traveling personally, because everybody's complaining they don't have money to spend on travel. How is it when you're doing marketing with travel? It must be a little bit harder to get people to part with their money for traveling. And then tell me a little bit about your personal, I guess, knowledge and passion for traveling.
Wow. So you said this is a 4-hour podcast, right? So let's tuck in. So wow, you have been to more places than I have. So I'm mad props to you. And something that I think, regardless of what industry I'm in, I think what I have witnessed in my own life and the people I run into, the families that make travel a part of their life are the ones that seem to be the most dynamic. You just, once you step outside of your state, once you step outside of your region of the country, once you step outside of the country, your view just expands so much. So kudos to you and your family, because that's fantastic. As far as the state of travel, there's so many things to unpack there. So I'm going to back up a little bit. So I would have never anticipated sitting here with you right now. 20 years ago, I got my start. My first job was at Six Flags Over Georgia, a theme park. At 16, on my birthday, my mom dropped me off at the Human Resources office and said, get a job. And this was the interview. Have you ever typed on a keyboard before? I had. So then that meant I got to work in the retail stores in the park, which was much better than being outside in the Georgia heat. And from there, I was like, oh, I like retail. I ended up getting into retail. I started working with a company, a cosmetic line called Bare Minerals. We happened to get on QVC and an infomercial, and it just was like this amazing ride. So for 20 years in cosmetics, retail, you sell a lipstick, you make money on that lipstick. It very simple strategy. But TV sales, fantastic, right? I was able to leave that company and go and be an entrepreneur and start. I thought every single idea I had was a great business idea. So I went and got the URL, started a business, and then failed miserably because you can't really do that. That's not how that works, right? And I stumbled into a host agency. So it's a travel agency that independent travel agency owners connect to and kind of pool their resources so they can connect to partners, trainings, different product programs, things like that, so they can build their own travel agency. So I got into it, and I'll be honest with you, at the time, I was like, who uses a travel advisor? Like that just didn't even seem to be
Mhm.
anything. So for me, my first job, or my primary job, is to expose the agency to potential people who want to create businesses, or maybe they already have a travel agency and they want to power that up. But I had to learn that what is a travel advisor and how do they make an impact in people's lives, because I had never done it. I just, I would go and book something. I do, use different tools, my delta.com. I live in Atlanta, so I'm flying Delta all the time, right? Um, so that was pretty fascinating. And then something like the pandemic hit, right? And so many of us that booked travel on our own learned the hard way that you honestly don't know what you're doing, especially when you're doing more complex trips or maybe more premium experiences. And coming through the pandemic, thank goodness, right? Um, Now there is such a demand for travel advisors to truly advise people on how to make the most out of these trips. I'm sure you've gone on trips. I'm not saying that if you maybe you used a travel advisor, maybe you did it on your own. I don't know, but if you're like me, you've been on that trip, you've gotten off the cruise maybe, and you see these giant coaches that you have to get on, and then you see the group that goes in the private car somewhere, and you're like, I'm going on the coach, but I would rather be going on the private car. How did that happen? So I have a big fear of missing out, and that's of course what a travel advisor does. Um, so part of my journey has been understanding that yes, there's so many things that we can do on our own, but we don't. Most of us don't do our taxes on our own. We don't, we don't cut our own hair, right? Like that's so. Go to people who know, and they truly know some secrets and ways that you can make the most out of that bucket list item to go to Hawaii. I think Hawaii is on your list, right?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
if you're gonna make that trip, talk to a travel advisor, and it's gonna be it's go. I know it will be a more fascinating experience. I think you would do a great job, but I think that you can lean into that expertise, and for the most part, it's no additional cost to you, right? So that's my world. Working with travel advisors and explaining that business model and how they market to then their clients. So getting back to your original the original question about what's the demand like? How do you market for travel? Um, there is so much demand for travel right now. It's insane. So even though we hear all this information about, oh, the tariffs, people don't want to travel here, Canadians don't want to travel, but there's all these different the stories that are out there. Uh, People who want to travel, people who have made that a priority, they are going to travel. And the thing that our agency owners and what my team helps them with do is not talk about the logistics of travel. It's talking about here are the must see things when you go to Paris for the first time, or I always use Disney because I did you go to Disney as a kid?
Not as well. My history with travel is it's more backloaded. When I was growing up, my family didn't have money. I grew up in New Jersey, and the extent of my travel until I met my wife and got married until around 35. The extent of my travel was New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Then I went to the 34 countries and the 43 states. But my experience with Disney was bringing well, I think we went once as a couple and then brought my kids there when they were younger. That's my experience with Disney.
I love that you did the whole like the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. That's an area very near and dear to my heart. When I worked with QVC, I was in Philadelphia once a
Okay.
month, so I feel like I'm a little bit Philadelphia. I don't know, maybe not really, but I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, so
Yeah.
vacation was driving up to Orlando and going to Disney. So fast forward to now being much older, uh, it is so complex to go to Disney as a couple, as an individual, definitely as a family. Yes, you can go, you can buy a ticket and you can go, but you you need some insider information, right? And it is until you go like now and understand there are so many experiences that just are not even advertised. You need that insider knowledge, that insider track. Um, I there are families, dads, moms, they are busy. Everyone's busy. Um, if they've experienced, hey, I don't want to go and everybody not get to do the things that I want to do. They the marketing travel today is about kind of meeting everybody where they're at. What are the types of experiences that you may want to do as a family when you go to Disney? What are the things that I might want to do as a couple going to Disney today? And really, I mean, this is just traditional marketing, right? Know who your customer is, know what they want, and tell the story, right? So the difference in selling consumer products like I used to do through a cosmetic line is now you're selling the world, and you're selling these different categories of travel, these different styles of travel. We could all travel on a Norwegian cruise line ship, but some of us might want the ship inside a ship experience, which is it's called the Haven. It's very luxurious. You don't feel like you're with the masses. You can join the masses if you want to, but you don't have to, right? So it's about really all this, everything that you apply to any product that you're marketing. You just have so much diversity to the overall product mix and experiences that you're selling. And the thing is we're selling more travel today, and I'm not just speaking for my agency. I'd say the travel industry as a whole. We're selling more travel today than we did in 2019. The demand is just so great, and you're really seeing Gen X and the millennials just saying, "Hey, if I am going to travel, I am going to do it my way. I want it all." So it's a very exciting time. This was not back a few years ago when it's like, why use a travel advisor, and that was the story. There's just so much diversity to selling travel, and the I think the biggest surprise that I had in coming into the travel industry is Americans, and I am American, so this is not me having slagging us off, but when we hear a little something about a place somewhere in the world, we basically assume that the entire world is not, you can't travel in the entire world. So there's always going to be that group of people who are like, oh no, there's something happening in the Middle East. I can't go to Australia. And you're just like, oh, okay. It was a new thing. That was a nuance to travel that I wasn't expecting. But
And going back to Disney, and then I want to expand on that. I think that a lot of people habitually find themselves just going to Disney just because of the marketing, the branding, and the supposedly magical experience you get. But I've known so many people that go and it's more stressful for them. It's very expensive because they don't have somebody advising them. And we have found that we would rather spend that money or less than it takes to go to Disney to go somewhere in Europe. And then the Americans are closed-minded in some aspect where they feel like they don't know other countries, other cultures. They don't want to do the international travel. And that's, I think, opened up not only experience, knowledge for myself and my wife, but for my children. Now that they've been to 34 countries, I think that they are so much more knowledgeable about world events and conversations with people at school or even adults. It's great. I think people should open their minds to other opportunities for travel. And a lot of the travel we did, especially here in the United States, was more for education because we used to homeschool, and my wife would take our children and drive, like, say, towards California, and I'd meet up with them. So they'd get all the states, like going towards the northern track. Then I'd meet with them in California. We'd do Sequoia and then Yosemite. Then I would fly back and they would drive back the rest of the way, doing mostly camping, but hotels here and there. And that gave them so much experience and knowledge about history and different cultures, learning about the Indian culture, or just even about farming, a whole bunch of different things. And then when we started doing more international travel, that was eye-opening. I went to Prague and Budapest, and I thought those were going to be rundown, war-torn countries, but they're beautiful and they have the best transportation system I've ever seen in my life. And I think people do need to travel. Like you said, people are doing it more and more now. You're hearing about layoffs, you're hearing about people complain about money and not being able to make a living, but I think people are trying to look for that escape, and they need to have that education, whether it is found through an AI tool or through a travel advisor. Really research what you're doing to get the most bang for your buck when you're doing these things. Don't go to Disney and just say, I'm just going to eat at all the restaurants. I'm going to, go to these parks. Figure out which parks you want to go to. What hotel you want to stay at. Is it better to stay off-site or on-site, right? Based on your budget and meals, right? Don't spend, I don't know how much a hot dog is there, like $18 or something like that, right? Find other ways to make the experience magical. Like with us, we like to spend money on experiences rather than gifts. Like Christmas, we don't buy a lot of gifts. We'd rather buy a vacation for the family. And I think
Yeah.
more people need to do that.
I mean, that is such a common story right now, and that was not the case uh, a decade ago, and just in the past, it wasn't about the experiences. But when you think about it, we are we're so influenced by the content that we're seeing. At one time it was the reality shows. Now it's TikTok and the Instagram reels and things like that. We are seeing the world now in a way that our parents didn't see, the way our grandparents did not see. So it is more accessible. But I love the fact that your family traveled around the country first, because then there's so much diversity in this country. I mean, it's just ridiculous. There's
Mhm.
just so much. But then when you travel, I remember being so terrified the first time I was going to go to a country that did not speak English. It was Europe, but I was like, oh, it's not England, so like I'm gonna be lost. I don't know. I can't do this. Like, I can handle Manhattan. I can't do this. Um, but then you go and you realize that the most of the world is actually very accommodating to us
Mhm.
American English speakers, right? So and want to show us their part of the world. And for your family and for anyone else that's been able to do it, it is so interesting to do a compare and contrast. We have so much more space, but you see some of the same things. You see maybe the origin story of some of the farms that we have in Pennsylvania. You see that in an England or
Mhm.
something like that. It's it's I think that's a very cool that's a very cool part of our country and the diversity in our country, and then to be able to travel and see that. And what I love too about being in travel, and I don't think I knew this prior to being a part of the industry and I work with over 5,000 different travel agency owners and advisors across the United States, and everybody has their unique take on business. I always like to say there's only one you in the galaxy, so that's your key differentiator, especially as a travel advisor, right? So everybody's got their different style, but I really didn't realize something like a river cruise where you're able to travel the way, and specifically in Europe, you're able to travel the way that people did years and years and years ago to see small towns, some that look like they're out of, going back to Disney, some kind of Disney movie, right? And you're able to do it at a really cool pace. And if you're traveling with your magnificent other or your mom, it is such a smooth experience, and you're really unlocking so much of that experience together at a different pace than, say, maybe I might go to Ireland and try to book every single day. We're going to do this massive trip, and we're going to go see castles, and we're going to go to Galway, and you're going to kiss the Blarney Stone. I hear it's not something I have not done yet. Have you done that?
No, I have not.
Okay, I heard it's not a good idea to do it because there's been a lot of kissing on that Blarney Stone, so maybe we avoid
Yeah.
that.
Or put a barrier between you and a stone and still say you did
Exactly. Take the picture in motion, right?
it. Well, let's hop into some marketing and because we were just going on and on about travel, and hopefully
I
we
know.
inspired people to do more travel and get more culture, experience, and knowledge. But when it comes to marketing in general, not just in the travel industry, what do you feel is the biggest mistake that marketers make in 2025 and 2026, or these days, if you want to say it that way?
How long have you been a marketer?
Well, I guess if you want to just put marketer in quotes, probably at least 25 years.
Okay. Yeah, so a little bit longer, but I will say that when I went to school, you used a computer to get on America Online and find friends. And my entire world is essentially based on digital experiences, or somehow communicating messages through digital spaces. And fortunately, I get to create live experiences, and I get to touch all the marketing things. I The thing that I always tell new marketers is, you have just chosen a career where you're going to be chasing something you're never going to catch, because there is something new every single day, and a new twist on it. And because we're marketers, when it's a marketing specific tool or technique, we have to brand it up, we have to give it some acronyms, we have to make it the hottest new thing. And so I think the thing that I would say, the AI story, right? It surrounds us, and people are at various different levels of incorporating it in their lives. I like to tell people, stop saying you use AI, say you work with AI, because that is a very different way to position it in your head, right? Because I don't ever say I used PowerPoint. It's just a part of the tools, right? But with AI, you're actually working with almost a remote teammate, and you're expanding your knowledge, its knowledge, and it's continuing to expand. It's improving. It's teaching me. I'm becoming a better writer. I'm becoming a better strategic thinker. But I think as marketers today, we're latching on to, okay, well, the SEO game has now changed, and it's now about the AI discoverability. But when you start breaking things down, doesn't it come back to good content marketing, good storytelling? So I think we do ourselves as marketers a disservice by not connecting the dots between where we're going in the future and what has just always been true. If you
Mhm.
don't have a good story, you you don't have anything. You might have a flash in the pan, but if you don't have a good story, it's nothing. And I because I work with entrepreneurs, I also have to remind them, if you don't have sales, you don't have a business.
Mhm.
So like I don't know. I don't know if that's really the answer you're looking for, but I it's I get frustrated if I have a very strong team of marketers, and they've got a diverse set of skills across multiple disciplines. But when we do reach out and hire freelancers or agencies, I have that moment where I feel like they are really trying to sell me the emperor's new clothes, and I have to say, wait a minute, you don't go there. Don't show me the shiny object. Can you help me generate leads? And can we measure that? Because all of this other stuff you're kind of throwing in the mix, I'm very well aware that nobody has mastered it yet, and it keeps changing every day. So I would just say, whether that's new for 2026 for the future, I I don't know if I've got any insight on that other than the fact that I think as marketers we need to hold true to what really matters. Do you know why you're selling this thing? Do you know who you're serving? And can you create enough gravitational pull to build your audience, or get them to convert and become customers? I don't know. I feel like you got me riled up on that one. I don't know. Again, I don't know that I answered the
Yeah.
question, but
You did in my head, but for the audience, if I had to put it in a succinct manner, I would say don't focus on tasks or be task oriented in marketing. You need to have a strategic plan. Because if you're just doing things that don't lead to anything or tell a story or, help, what do you want to call that? Lead or do nurturing, you're going to get nowhere. But if you have a strategic plan of how to do these things, how to create your content or how to close your leads or who your audience is, it leads you down that strategic path and guides leads into the funnel and then gets you to close them. I would just say stop doing tasks and start planning what you're doing.
you know what? I thank you for being my interpreter, because yes, you're right. As something that I've been really reinforcing lately. I do a weekly show on Saturdays where I talk about travel marketeering, and it's specific to the travel industry, where I'm just teaching the systems around marketing, sales, and service delivery, because I work with entrepreneurs. They aren't just marketers, right? But if they stop marketing, they're not going to have a business. So,
Mhm.
that's my pillar that I stand on most of the time. But I try to really get people to understand that it's about brand strategy, and then that's your overarching, that's what you're applying to the work that you're doing. The marketing is the tactics,
Mm.
right? Exactly to your point, it's about the strategy. And think about it, I'm the chief revenue officer. That sounds like I am Scrooge McDucking it in the coins every day. Like, that is my job. Well, I don't even remember who wrote the book, but it's been a few years. There was a book about CMO to CRO, and I loved it because it was a marketing officer saying, "Hey, we need to rebrand ourselves, because if you think we're about colors and fonts and tweets, that's not what we're here for. Our function is to drive revenue. So we need to step into our power. We need to be chief revenue officers." So I did. I rebranded myself. I said, "Okay, I am now going forward. I'm going to be the chief revenue officer." It was very interesting, just moving that through my company and explaining what that meant, because I was kind of disappointed. A lot of people thought I was in charge of all the tweets, like that was my job, but it wasn't. It was about, how do we grow our revenue streams? How do we find opportunities where maybe we're just overlooking them. But it really reinforces that today, if you are a junior marketer just getting started, you're actually responsible for driving leads, revenue for your company. That's a huge responsibility.
Mhm.
So I hope everybody walks a little prouder today, if that's the first time they thought of it.
So since you are the overseer of all that is revenue, and I hate to use the word ROI, but where do you see the what do you, the best activities and or platforms or channels that are giving the best ROI these days?
Oh, wow. I'm sure I'm not going to say anything that you wouldn't agree with, but can we just say email marketing is still the strongest when it comes to ROI, and the people who are not, I mean, why are you fighting email? It just doesn't, it's so many people are fighting me. I'm like, you are blocking the blessings here, guys. So I'm going to say email is always going to sit on top. And it's the thing that, if you're in a very competitive space, it's still the thing that companies do not do well. And it's not hard to do well. You just need to be consistent. You need to make sure you've plugged into it. And then I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say TikTok.
Okay.
TikTok Live. It is going live, the way that that algorithm has set things up. I mean, it's changed the game for how people are consuming content, um, and the focus on authenticity makes it hard for the very large brands, the Mercedes Benz. It makes it very hard for them, but for most business owners, from the solopreneur to a larger team, it makes it so easy for you to go with that authentic content and find an audience, that once you have an audience, you can move them in so many different directions. As your business evolves, they evolve, right? They evolve with you. And so many people are still so, and especially owners, business owners, are so scared to go live. But yet, if you were in a room of, if you met a customer, you'd be able to talk about your product, your industry all day long. So it's more of, I think it's this, I think we all know it's there, but I think people are fighting it, because of more personal, the emotional aspect of it. And if you're a marketer in a company, you're scared to even present it, because maybe you have fears that your leaders don't want you on camera. But I would say, if you, the way I consume social content today, I'm consuming it as, a user, but I'm also consuming it as a, a chief revenue officer, as a marketer, as a brand strategist,
Right.
and I'm seeing people crushing it with the sloppiest content, no good lighting, no animated digital graphics like you have in the background of yours, right? And they're crushing it. They've got audiences that are tuned in. They've got a dialogue going, and people buy from people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
anyway,
people want to be a part of things, right? And I think once you get on there and you're live and people can start chatting and talking to the person that's there live, I think that's so helpful. And I have the curse of knowledge. You probably have it too. Like we're out there, we put ourselves out there. So we say, well, like, why would somebody not want to do that? But and we see when we're like we were talking before the show about, death scrolling on TikTok. And there's so many people that are content creators, but that's only a fraction of the world's population. There's
yeah,
so many people that are camera shy, and you have to get with it. And I know Gary Vaynerchuk, everybody probably knows him. He's always talking about social selling too, like going live and selling. And there's that new platform, I forgot the name of it, but where it's just basically social selling and auctioning all day long.
yeah,
You get on there, if you have products, and you're going to be more successful. So I think, I think if we want to kind of come full circle and start wrapping things up, it's one, travel more so that you can relax and have those experiences, get more knowledge and more information about human beings in general. Because if you're a marketer, you need to know about human beings, how they act and react. Use email marketing. We all know that's important. And if you go to kickbox.com and you need to verify email addresses, use code HMBT to get your 5,000 free credits. Got to give them a little plug. And
love it.
then go live or at least create video and put videos out there. Joshua, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. Can you tell me a little bit about, I know you have a book. Tell us about that and how people can
Yeah.
contact you.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I wrote a book called Travel Marketeering, all about the systems to market, sell, deliver service within a travel agency. And let's be honest, it applies to everything. I've got another book coming up out about applying some Japanese principles to growing your business as an entrepreneur.
Awesome.
I'm very focused on that. But you can find me on all the social channels at Joshua Harrell on most, and at Josh Harrell on the ones where I missed out and didn't get my name on there. You know how it goes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll have links in the show notes. This was a great conversation. Mostly, I enjoyed the parts about traveling and all that, and it's great. Yeah, so I definitely would encourage people to travel, do marketing more, and get in touch with you and read your book.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hank, for having me. I had a good time, and I think we could probably talk for hours.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.